Welcome to the Autofocus Q&A, where we invite leaders, top executives, and personalities from the automotive sector to answer questions about the automobile and its industry from our invited motoring journalists and those sent to us by our viewers. This week from the motoring media, we have the motoring editor of the Manila Bulletin and contributing writer of Volt magazine, Mr. Inigo Roses. Welcome back to Autofocus, Inigo.
Thank you very much, sir.
And he is joined by the editor-in-chief of Car Guide Philippines and contributing writer of the Philippine Star and, of course, Sunshine Television for Autofocus and Motoring Today, Mr. Ulysses Ang. Welcome back, Ulysses.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and as for our esteemed guest this week on the Autofocus Q&A, the gentleman that we have now is not a member of the automotive industry, but he is very much concerned with the industry. That's why we have invited Congressman of Buhay Party List, Representative Irwin Tieng. Congressman.
Thank you very much, Boots.
My pleasure to have you here. Okay, getting this show on the road, our first question with Congressman Irwin is not really about the bill yet. If I may just set the tone, we have invited Congressman Irwin because he's one of the co-authors of the bill that would give incentives to all those who would be involved in the business of manufacturing or importing alternative fuel engines or vehicles in the Philippines. So, but before we get deep into that, let me just ask the Congressman, I understand you were one of the youngest party list congressmen when you got into Congress?
Yes, that's true. During my first term, which is 2007, I was one of the youngest, and for the party list, I'm the youngest representative. So now it's my last term, so that's why we've been trying to push and trying to pass this bill already.
Now, for all those who don't know, maybe you can give us an idea of the advocacy of the party list, of Buhay Party List.
Buhay is a pro-life party list, and one of the most important advocacy of Buhay is saving lives and saving the environment. So that's why we've put more attention on trying to protect the environment by bringing in alternative fuels.
Okay, having mentioned that, let me move on to our main topic this week, which is the this bill that's being passed in Congress, which is actually centering on the on incentives for the manufacture, importation, and use of electric, hybrid, and other alternative fuel vehicles. Before you get into the details of the bill, can you tell us what is the rationale behind this bill?
Well, the rationale of the bill is right now, if you import an electric vehicle or you import the components, you're subject to a 40% customs and duties and 60% excise and another 12% for VAT. So the reason why we're trying to implement this bill is we want a moratorium on the taxes that will be imposed. Mainly because we want electric vehicles to proliferate in the Philippines, and we want to entice more investors to manufacture or bring in these electronic vehicles.
Well, okay, first of all, Congressman, it's very interesting that you connected what the Buhay Party List does about saving lives and the way that, for example, the adoption of these electric vehicles can also potentially save lives and the environment. I guess my question would be, personally, what was the reason? I mean, you're one of the youngest congressmen, and normally, the concern for environment comes later in life. So what actually made you, did you actually see something that actually made you consider tackling or actually doing the Electric Vehicles Act first?
Because being a car fan, I like cars. I saw that there was really a need for, because every time I go abroad, I could see that you could see cars without mufflers. That means it's electric vehicles. You can see that they have zero emission. So, and if you compare it to the situation in the Philippines, you would see that if you're in EDSA, pollution. So I thought of doing something for the automotive industry. I was able to talk to the Association of Electric Vehicles. They were telling me that the only problem they're facing right now is really the taxes and the duties.
Now, sir, of course, hypothetically, if this bill gets passed, how much of a price reduction, or what is the goal exactly of the of course, these reliefs, no, to the prices of the vehicles themselves, will they be priced as a result the same as a I guess entry-level vehicle, or will it even be cheaper? Is it possible for it to be cheaper?
I think it can, but if we try the American European brands, it will be about maybe as far as a Japanese car.
Okay.
What we want to do is not really make it cheaper, but make it at par with competing brands or
Okay.
competing models. Like for example, if it's a standard sedan, if it's an electric sedan, it would cost maybe double or triple. So by removing the
Without-
taxes, it would be the same price. Already.
Okay.
So I think it's not selling something lower. It's just selling it the same price.
Okay.
So people will have an option.
Okay. In effect, giving them the green option
Yes.
for exactly the same price, no, not penalizing it.
Now, going through the bill, Irwin, I saw that one of the objectives really of this bill of giving incentives to those who would be involved in the business of electric vehicles, or what we would encompassingly call the alternative fuels engine bill, is that it could reduce tremendously the amount of pollution in the country. Can you expound on this?
Yes, that's actually that's one of our advocacy also, is trying to protect the environment. And by bringing in electronic vehicles, emission will be low, if not zero. And compared to an ordinary sedan, which with the carbon monoxide emission, I mean, the electronic vehicle, it has zero emission, so it will be beneficial to the environment.
Okay, my next question, Congressman, would be, are there any other things that you're asking for aside from the reduction in the importation taxes with regards to this bill? I mean, is there anything else that a possible electric car consumer can expect?
Based on the bills that was filed in Congress, there are other non-fiscal incentives that we want to put in place. Like for example, if you own an electric vehicle, there will be a designated parking spot / charging area for your unit, and we want to have an exemption from whatever government agencies would implement to reduce the volume of vehicles, like for the number coding and whatever other plans they want to put. But again, based on our bill, this will be limited to 10 years.
Of course, sir, another concern, especially with electric vehicles in particular, is that since they require some charging, this some may argue that this simply shifts the load of pollution from the streets itself to the power plants that eventually power and will be recharging these cars, no? And that's already a big strain on our, of course, our power system as it is, no? With regards to, I mean, we just have a storm, and then there's already widespread blackouts, no?
That's true. There's also other people saying that by using the electric vehicles, they're using power from our power plants, which is coal.
Yes.
But what we're saying here is coal is not the only power source that we can have. We can have wind, we can have hydro, and we can have other forms. So what we want right now is to reduce the carbon monoxide from vehicles. And we want to teach people how to bring in, if you think about it, how much is a full tank of gas compared to a full charge of an electronic vehicle. Based on what we saw, I think it's around 700 to 1,000 pesos for a full charge of vehicle that will run up to 300 to 400 kilometers.
Versus the full tank of about almost 2,000.
2,000
these
to
days.
3,000.
Yeah, it's a savings of about 50%.
Okay, we'll have more inputs about this legislation, giving incentives to all those who would get involved in the business of alternative fuel engine vehicles in a short while. We will take a very short break, and when we come back, we continue with the week's Q&A. Stay with us.